The following production is brought to you by the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
So in the last week, we have gotten up-close looks at the Buffalo Sabres and the Ottawa Senators. And my main takeaway from seeing both those teams as of late is this is already the toughest division in the National Hockey League, and it's not going to get any easier. These are good young hockey teams that within the next couple of years, I feel like the days of the Bruins, the Lightning, and the Leafs being the top three in this division are coming to an end.
Yeah, they looked, Ottawa looked fast, man. They looked fast. And they were hard on pucks. And the amount of puck battles won on the boards, and yeah, they're no joke. They're missing a goaltender. They're missing a little bit of star power, but they are not the shitty Sens anymore. They are on their way, and they are fast.
There's a lot of people who last night after that game were really kind of pissed. I saw a lot of that on Twitter being like, oh, well, here we go again. And another crap effort and nobody showed up. But it's like, and I mean this, I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean it in it's just reality. This is who they are. You knew that they had a tough game on Friday night against Carolina, another really, really good hockey team, really good hockey team. And you knew that they were going to come out. They have to go to Ottawa, which I understand is not a massive amount of travel, but it's still travel. They have to go to Ottawa. It's you just knew that they weren't, they would be kind of spent after Friday night's game against Carolina.
Yeah, but I would make the argument that I knew they were going to have the type of game you're referring to because it's just a Saturday night game against a rival, and this is what this franchise does. They don't win these games decisively. They always find a way to make it interesting and entertaining and drive their fan base crazy with it because I just knew. I sent you a text in the first period being I know it's just going to be one of these games because it's Saturday night against a bubble hockey team that's one of their quote-unquote rivals, and it's just this is what this franchise does. They keep their it's the type of game they have, and it's kind of annoying. It is kind of annoying, but it was entertaining. I'll say that.
Alex Kerfoot, baby. Listen, got to give the guy his due. That's something that we've always preached on this pod. We will come on here and we will chirp guys and rip on guys, but you got to tip your cap. And what is this? Stop slowing down in the shootout. There's when I'm watching it, when some guy comes over the blue line and he immediately puts the brakes on, I just go, no, you're not scoring.
The stupidest thing about that was Nylander and Matthews go and score on two backhand dekes, and then the next five guys decide to shoot. What? Didn't you just watch what he just... Didn't you watch the two guys who scored? Why are you going in and shooting? It's clear that this guy's a little slow on the side to side because he's the guy's 6'7". He's a monster in the net. They go in and shoot.
Matt Murray makes 52 saves.
Well, that's another issue with that game. That's not good. That is, they have what do they have? 20 shots after one? That's annoying.
I don't want to dwell on negative today because they literally have put together some nice wins in the last week against good teams, and even the games that they the loss to Colorado wasn't that could have gone either way. But this team defensively in their own zone gives up a lot of scoring chances in the middle of the ice, and we kind of have gone back to this classic. 52 saves for Matt Murray is kind of classic, classic Leafs in the sense, giving up so many shots, so many quality scoring chances. He still allows 4 goals, but in my opinion, was he was the second star of the game.
I just thought they got outworked. I think that was the one thing I
52 shots on goal. Sorry, not saves. 52 shots on goal.
They're a good team, and they know how to. They're gonna get. They've been remarkably consistent. We talked about it last week. They haven't lost 2 games in a row since January. Like they're a remarkably consistent hockey team. But the one thing I noticed against Carolina and Ottawa is they're not the fastest team in the league anymore. Like they used to have a reputation of being a team that played very fast, and they're very fast on transition and getting an odd man rush, and that's how they usually score their goals. Like Marner did it twice last night. But in terms of just working for pucks and just battles, like the Carolina Hurricanes and the Ottawa Senators are two fast, tenacious, hard battling on the boards hockey teams. And it just became apparent that this team isn't really the fastest hockey team in the league anymore.
Well, that's what a lot of the naysayers who are upset about moving on from Sandin and Engvall, that's one of the points that they really stick on is, well, you're slower now. Like you're a slower hockey team now.
Yeah, but I don't care about like that. Those players, they were slow with those guys. Like I'm not one of those guys who thought they were great with them, so I don't really care. It's just these other teams are just younger. They've faster D, like that's for sure. Like the D is faster for both those teams, but I don't know.
Hurricanes too, man. You said Rod the Bod's got these guys like puck possession.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about the Leafs want to play a puck possession game. Watch that Carolina Hurricane team play hockey. Holy shit, do they have possession? They are just all over the puck.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's I'm trying.
We're winding down here.
Yeah, like I don't
we're
want to be
winding down.
I'm kind of struggling because I don't want to be negative. Like I don't want to sit here and be negative, but I'm defensively. There's two things I'm worried about with this team. First and foremost is the head coach. Like no disrespect to David Kampf, great utility role player, but guys on the ice for 2 minutes in overtime against the Ottawa Senators. Like what? I just feel like Sheldon is kind of losing his mind with like all the roster upgrades and all the new guys they've brought in, where like I've used the term galaxy braining. Like he's way too into, he's trying to be the smartest guy in the room, and it's driving me a bit nuts. You said it the other night, and I completely agree with you. How much would you love to have Rod the Bod behind the Maple Leaf bench?
Yeah, he's just got an aura about him.
So Sheldon is the first thing that I'm kind of concerned with. And then defensively, I just don't think they're good. Like 52 shots to the Ottawa Senators. And yes, they're a much better hockey team. 52 shots.
Got outworked.
What are we doing? Like what? Like
they gave up that many shots because they just flat out got outworked in that hockey game. That's what I saw.
And it's the mark of a good team to get outworked and come back and pick up a nice win. But still, it's just, I'm kind of like, I don't know here. Like, but it isn't all negative. Like, Keefe said after the game last night, which I thought was really interesting, that Matthews was very passionate about wanting to keep Calle Järnkrok on his line. Calle Järnkrok can straight up wire the puck.
Yeah, when he gets his chance.
Yeah. Like, so that's a kind of a nice little revelation, because then he can spread the wealth out a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, at least when he gets that opportunity, like he can bury. Like that's something that Alex Kerfoot can't do. That's a valuable asset when you're playing with a top hockey player. But again, he himself not that fast.
Yeah.
Not that fast of a hockey player.
Is that something you think that could come back to bite them in the playoffs? Is the lack of speed? Like, are you worried about that? Like, no. I don't think against the Lightning that's going to be but when they played against Edmonton in Toronto,
they looked like the fastest hockey team I've ever seen in my entire life. I know they have it in them. It's just when they get outworked, it kind of just sticks out to me that they aren't that fast when they're not on their best. Like, I've seen them play fast hockey, but those two games, I thought they got outskated by two hockey teams back to back.
Yeah, and I again, second half of a back to back, but I just find right now it's really hard because we're just winding down. Yes,
we're winding down. You don't want to come on here. You don't want to be too negative because look at the record.
Yeah, I know. Look at the record.
Look at the record. Like, what can you really say? Like, they're a good hockey team.
Yep.
They're better than anyone in the West.
Yes.
Like, they have more points than anybody in the Western Conference. Like, they are just a damn good, consistent hockey team that wins hockey games.
And it just comes down to way the NHL playoffs are sort of constructed, and the fact that like who they're going to have to go through to go on a run here. Like it's that simple. Like,
and then when you think about the series, you can't be too positive because you know what happens. Like you can see things in their game right now where everyone just points to and they go, well, you got to do that in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's hard to take these past 2 games and
I like the game. I like their game against Carolina. Carolina played well, really well, but I like their game. Like Sam Lafferty had a great game.
I thought Järnkrok was phenomenal in that game as well.
I thought Matthews was all around it in that game. Like he was on another level. Marner's on another level. Like I thought, like I don't want to sit here and say like we're not being negative about the Carolina game. Like Carolina's a good hockey team that played well, but the Leafs played really well too and capitalized on their chances.
Yeah, for sure. It's not even I'm being negative about that game. I just saw Carolina and again, a team that's just missing a little star power and missing some prominent goaltending, even though they've played 3 goalies all year, which is wild. But I'm not trying to be negative. It's just I'm just trying to find something to like nitpick out of these games going into the playoffs because we can't just come on here and be like, oh well, it's all great, they're a great hockey team. Like I just got to think of something that I could see that I'm seeing that makes me a little bit concerned for this hockey team.
For me, it's defensively. I've said it a couple times now. It's defensively. Like, do you agree with my assessment? Like when you watch, like I just find that like they're back to this sort of scrambling around in their own zone. They give up a lot of chances up the middle of the ice in their own zone. There's a lot of guys who are like in around the between the hash marks in the offensive zone that are just like at least a couple times a game, Murray or Samsonov have to make huge saves because there's quality offensive chances that the other team is getting because somebody's out of position, somebody turns the puck over, somebody like that. To me is what I'm kind of worried about.
Well, yeah, they're having a hard time breaking out sometimes, and then what I found in the Ottawa game too, it's once Ottawa got possession of the puck, it just seemed so easy for them to bring it back to the point and get a good chance on net. And it seemed like they had a lot of space in the zone when they started firing it around.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what that is, but their breakouts aren't clean. I thought their neutral zone play was brutal. I thought John Tavares was brutal. Yeah. As someone who was playing in that aspect of the game, who just every time he got the puck in the neutral zone, he was checked immediately, and the puck was going the other way around.
Can I offer a differing opinion? There's a lot of people that are just saying, when O'Reilly comes back, he's the third line center. Why can't John Tavares be the third? John Tavares can't skate. He's still elite in the. I'm gonna get crushed for this. Someone's gonna see me say that and go, "You're so negative." Like, he can't skate. When he gets down low in the offensive zone, he's still elite. He still has the hands. He still has the shot. He still has the whatever. But when you get like 2 games this week where I thought he looked just completely outclassed because of your point, the speed of the game, Colorado and Carolina. He was a spinning top. Like he would start going north and the puck would go south. He would start going south and the puck would go north. Like it's just... He can't skate. He can't skate. And we love him. He's still elite. I am in no way saying he's not an elite hockey player still in certain aspects. But I'm kind of perplexed at this, like, clearly O'Reilly's your third line centerman. And it's like, I don't think John Tavares is like significantly better than Ryan O'Reilly. Like, am I crazy?
Yeah, with John, it's just like when the games he's not on fire, it just doesn't look great. It just doesn't pass the smell test when he's not out there contributing at his best. It's just a lot of what you said. It's just he just never really has the puck. Like he's always just kind of skating this way, skating that way, and you're just kind of like, what are you doing? Like it's hard for you to keep up right now. Like it's like he gets some momentum going through the neutral zone. There's an Ottawa center right on his ass. Checks him, takes the puck. They're going the other way.
I guess the argument against my own point that I just made is once you get into the bottom 6, you start getting into guys who are playing specific roles. And if speed is something John Tavares is struggling with, like you don't really want him in a checking capacity because can he keep up with someone? So maybe you look at O'Reilly and go, yeah, when push comes to shove, if he has to play a defensive role from time to time, we're more confident in his ability to do that.
And I mean, Tavares is a better, like, he's still capable of scoring 30, 40 goals in the NHL. Like, when he has a chance, he buries as well. So, I mean, there's always that. You just hope that when it matters most, slow John goes away and then the contributing John shows up.
Yeah.
It's just like one game he looks like it's like this guy is still elite, and then there's other games when he's not is at his best.
It's when the speed of the game really picks up that it's noticeable that he's really behind the play. And like if they ended up playing like a Carolina in the playoffs, like a fast young hockey team like that, you wonder how much of a factor he could be. Like when you think of the Lightning, for instance, do you think of them as a fast team? I don't.
No, I don't. I think of see, the thing about the Carolina is I would feel good about the Leafs playing Carolina in a playoff series because like you're not really going up against a lot of star power, and the thing the Leafs have had in common with their past 2 playoff losses is like they're just playing an all-world tendy. Like they're just like Like, I know they lost to the Habs, but, like, Carey Price was still in there playing like Carey Price, and then they lose to Vasilevsky, and then they lost to, like, Tuukka all those years. Like, it's almost like they run into a good goalie, like, almost every single time they're in the playoffs. Like, I'd be down for them to go play Antti Ranta or Freddie Anderson or whoever that, Pacheco, whatever his name was in the net the other night. I would feel good about them in that sense. But, like, you look at Tampa, it's like they're not the fastest team, but they do have star power, which Carolina is kind of lacking, and they have a goalie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Something else I wanted to touch on was Morgan Rielly. I thought he played really well against Carolina again, and I think he's starting to sort of find his game. I think bringing in some of the guys they've brought in.
Well, it's McCabe. It's not you can. A guy like Luke Shen, Gustafson, whatever, but it's McCabe. The guy's come in, he's all of a sudden their top. He's getting the most minutes a night.
I think
he came in, he's almost their top defenseman, which kind of tells you the state of the D core. Like it's really like it's not horrible, but when a guy comes in and he's not really a top
it's because
D.
He's kind of like Brody in the sense that like they don't have a lot of like Riley's a riverboat gambler. So if you can get Morgan Rielly in a situation where he can think, it's kind of weird considering this is why the people who on social media who say try him on left wing makes me laugh, but I don't think it's that they'll never do it. But I don't think it's that silly of an opinion just because he's a defenseman who excels when he can think offense first. Like Morgan Rielly is not a good defensive defenseman. So the reason why I think Keefe loves McCabe and we all love McCabe is because he's more like Brody in the sense that like he's a more physical version of TJ Brody. He's a solid guy. He'll pitch in for offense when it makes sense, but he's a defensive defenseman first. And so that's why I think Keefe has just been like, oh my God, this guy's like found gold. And he's like rated, he's their top. Brody and McCabe are their top 2 defensemen. Like without question. Because they're the most defensive guys they have. So, having said that, though, I think bringing in the defensive depth, it's given Keefe a chance to sort of move Rielly out of, because Rielly was always by default because of like who he is and where he was drafted and how much money he makes, and he's a good hockey player. He was always like, oh, he's in their top 2. But he's not. Like, if you can get him away and he can be a 3-4 and he can think offense first and he can go in and score that really nice goal that he scored against Carolina, like, that's when Morgan Rielly's at his best.
Hey, we almost forgot to mention who was not in the lineup against Ottawa.
Oh, thank you very much. And when Sheldon commented on it after, what did they say? Just going to give him a night off because he's 39 years old.
We almost let that one slip.
Oh,
I had to mention that one.
Yeah, so all of you who are crying on TikTok about giving Mark Giordano a night off, like, relax.
Because he's 39.
Yeah,
because when you're 39, sometimes you look like you're 39, just like what we were talking about Tavares earlier. When he's slow, sometimes he's going to look slow.
Yes, he's another guy, like, it's kind of tough. Like, Tavares is a guy that I really do think could use, like, he's a guy whose minutes I would start to limit as we're heading towards the playoffs here, but They're only 3 points up on Tampa. It's like they can't, they're still in a, like, yes, they're making the playoffs. And you and I have gone back and forth on how important home ice advantage is. I think when you look at Ilya Samsonov's record at home versus on the road and the fact that he is your starting goalie in game one, I think home ice advantage is super important and you have to try and get it.
I like, do you buy that? Like, it is an amazing record, and it's interesting because you'd almost like to know what the difference is. Like, it's not the same as like football, like, you know, like it's not that type of home ice advantage. But like, to me, that kind of goes in the garbage when the playoffs start. Though.
Ryan,
like,
I think this team's playoff psyche is so fragile. That you need every little bit, any advantage that you can get, you need. You absolutely need.
I mean, if you look at the standings, like the only thing separating Tampa and Toronto is OT losses.
Yes.
Like they both have 42 wins. The Leafs have a game in hand, but like they're like Tampa scored more goals. The Leafs have been better defensively.
Yeah.
Like you know, like they're pretty similar this year.
Yes.
Like it's not, I don't think there's a big, I think the gap has definitely been shortened in terms of the talent level between the two teams. But like,
I just got to think that Tampa, there's no way that these guys, after going to 3 straight cup finals and in the shortened span that they've done it with the COVID year and that sort of thing, there's no way these guys aren't, like there's no way the gas tank is still full.
no,
Like there's no way.
no, I they're so due. They're so
yes,
due,
they are
man.
so due.
They're
Yes.
so due for an L. Like
Yes.
it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like it absolutely needs to happen.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I hope so.
Yeah, the Leafs, like, I didn't realize like their goals against is just like, it's really solid. Like, just
Yeah,
looking
that's
at,
the thing. Like,
it's-
you and I talked about
what,
this.
what is like? Are we just like? Now I feel like I've just been like obsessively negative this whole episode. Like, am I just like totally market blind right now?
I don't
Like-
think so. I think
like I wasn't trying to like
It's not
say.
it's not about Saturday night in Ottawa. Like that's not what it's about. It's about game 1 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, game 2, game 3, game 4, game 5, game 6, game 7, because you know it's going 7. That's what it's about. It's when I see things on the ice that I find kind of scary and sketchy, I'm looking at it through the lens of Steven Stamkos is going to bury that. Kucherov is going to bury that. Like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm not worried about like, they're in the playoffs. Like, it's over. Like, they've got a lot of, we talked about this last week. There's a lot of good teams that they play down the stretch here in the final few weeks of the season. But even still, it's like, I'm not going to get bent out of shape over losing games for the rest of the year. I am going to get bent out of shape over habits that I'm seeing that I think a team like Tampa, because none of this, as soon as you drop the puck on game 1, where your power play is ranked in the regular season
done.
doesn't matter.
I know, and
Your
that
goals
was,
against don't matter. Like, Samsonov and Murray's records don't matter. How many goals Austin Matthews has doesn't matter. Like, that's the lens that I'm looking at this through. It's like we need the best version of this team firing on all cylinders when game 1 begins.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what that's why you kind of have to nitpick in these games that you're watching right now because of that. Like, yeah, the results, the stats are the stats, but like, you're just trying to find those little things that you go, well, and maybe in a playoff game, that's not the greatest thing I've ever seen. And a guy like Kucherov's going to bury that puck.
Yes.
Like, not a third liner from Ottawa. Like,
Yes. And there's lots of, like, I think this revelation of Calle Järnkrok being a guy that Matthews wants to play with and being able to score goals when Matthews sets them up for him is really great. Like, I think that gives them another option of a guy, because we've been criticizing, and not just us, everyone else has been criticizing Keefe constantly wanting to shove Alex Kerfoot into the top 6, but it's like Calle Järnkrok could be a guy that in a pinch you bring up there, and it sort of spreads out the wealth. Like we said before, we talked about Jake McCabe, another guy. Like, him and Achari, like, the sexy guy that they picked up at the sexy name that they picked up at the deadline is obviously Ryan O'Reilly. But like McCabe and Achari, like those are like Noel Achari, who thank God doesn't have a concussion. Oh my God. We talked about last week about like how cursed this team is. And I'm sitting there on Friday night and I'm just like, oh my God. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, really? But he doesn't have a concussion. Achari's a guy in the bottom six that they desperately need, and they picked him up. McCabe is another top 4 defenseman that they desperately needed, and they picked him up.
I think McCabe is like someone they desperately needed that, like he's just made the biggest difference so far. Like
I can't say
it's clear now that they really needed help.
Kyle Dubas getting that guy for 2 more seasons at $2 million per season. Give him his contract extension right now.
I feel like there's so many Leaf fans who just hate this guy though.
Who?
McCabe. Like, I feel like there's just like a section of the fan base that just
Who are these people?
the people who yell at us for saying Mark Giordano's a Norris Trophy candidate.
Oh, I don't think so. I think as soon as you put that jersey on, you're beloved. That's how I feel. Like Luke Shen could be a -5 every night. I don't care.
That's another guy. He ain't winning a skating race anytime soon. I'll tell you that right now.
He looked like
his.
Tell me you didn't love though him laying the body the other night and the crowd at Scotiabank going Luke. Tell me you didn't love that.
I don't know. Like
I love that.
I did love it. I don't want to get into that conversation.
Well, okay.
I think it's just. I feel like we've had this conversation like 4 times about Luke Shen, and I don't need to have it again.
Who's okay? I've asked you this 100 times and it changes every time, but I'm going to ask you again. Okay. Who are your 6 defensemen for game 1? And I want pairings.
I have a hard time picking the pairings. I'm going to be honest.
Really?
I find it's easier to name the 6 than it is naming the pairings.
Like, would you go?
It's changed so much that like I just haven't like. I feel like with forwards, it's just it's about as soon as a line starts contributing offense, then you feel good about the chemistry of the forward line. But to me, like I've been a defenseman, I've had several defense partners, and it takes time to like grow a partnership on the back end. And I feel like it's just been so mixed up that I don't know how I can see all these guys taking different shifts with each other and get a big enough sample size to just make a definitive call on pairings.
Okay then. Forget pairings.
Yeah. You get what I'm saying though? Does that make sense?
Yes. Fine. Who are your 6 guys? Game 1.
Okay, well, let's get the obvious ones out of the way. We'll get McCabe, Brody. I like Liljegren and Rielly. Those are 4 guys who are automatically in for me. And then
Giordano. Giordano's the 5th.
Giordano, yeah.
So who's the last one? So you're looking at Gustafsson, Shen, or Hall.
I don't.
You want my hot take?
Yeah, sure.
Eric Gustafsson. I think he's at least if you want it, first of all, take Justin Hall. Everyone keeps yelling at me because I'm calling him Justin Hall. Take Justin Hall, fire him into the sun. Like, forget about him.
Yeah, see but is that just a biased take because he's a guy we've watched for several years?
But what upside does he provide?
I don't know. I feel like, but like to me, it's like maybe I'm blind to whatever upside he brings because he's been the guy who's been around the longest. I don't love him. Like when I watch him, I just don't love him. Do I think he's awful? No, but I don't love him. He doesn't really do anything. He's not that fast. He's not good offensively. He's not physical. He got his ass kicked by Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, which is embarrassing.
So I would go. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for someone who could potentially chip in with some offense,
Eric Gustafsson.
If you're looking for someone who's going to be a physical force and a factor, Luke Shen.
And then to me, Justin Hall is just, he's like kind of, I guess he's almost the middle in the, like he's just like, maybe he's a faster, less physical Luke Shen. But I haven't seen enough from Eric Gustafsson to to know what he is defensively. Like, I've heard that he's not that great defensively from other people who've watched him Washington. I've heard that he's underrated defensively from people who've watched him in Washington. I haven't seen him enough.
Well, we're talking a sixth guy here. So it really does come down. And you know the worst part about this? Out of these three names, what Justin Hall has going for him is he's Sheldon Keefe's favorite hockey player. So
I don't
he's
see.
gonna end up,
I don't see him coming. I don't see him coming out. I would actually would say that you'll see Liljegren come out before you see. Even though he sat the other night.
That's the biggest thing I'm worried about. Honestly, man,
Liljegren got a shitload of ice time. I'm pretty sure he was second in ice time for D-man against Ottawa. So
honestly, man, that's something I'm actually literally legitimately worried about is Sheldon Keefe making dumb decisions and costing this team.
But I mean, at least they have options of a type of player. Like, they're all the same player. Like, one's offensive, one's tough, and the other guy's like just a guy that seems like he can be relied on based on his amount of playing time and ice time that he gets from the coach.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you wanted to find something that Justin Hall is going for him, it's he's shown that he can play big minutes.
He's the devil,
Yeah.
Like, he's the guy you've had for several years and who's played well in the past, but at the same time, it's like I'm sick. Like, I want to see a new guy go in because I've seen this guy play before and he hasn't made that big of a difference. So I don't know.
This isn't going to be the last time.
So close.
Yeah, I know. This isn't going to be the last time that we sit and talk about who your starting six defensemen are.
Well, it's the only thing to talk about because what over.
Yeah,
like the season's over. Like, let's get to the
we're officially in the home stretch here where it's like, okay,
get to the good stuff.
Like, this is how we're feeling right now. When I start hearing things like Gary Bettman wants to extend the season to like 84, 86 games, I'm like, no, don't do that. It's like, it's all 82 games is already too many. Like, sorry.
I was hearing.
Sorry, it's too long.
I think it was like, I don't know when it was, but I was listening to Merrick's show and they were like talking about expansion again.
They're talking about, there's rumors going around right now that the NHL is considering expansion. The NHL product is already so watered down. And now you're going to, it's just, this is a league that like, you're going to get like $1 billion for an expansion franchise. Houston. Find me one person in Houston, Texas that wants to go watch NHL hockey. And Atlanta already failed.
Houston, okay. Like, it seems like Dallas does okay. And Houston's now a top 5 populated city in North America. Like, I'm okay with that. At least that makes sense. You're going into a big market that loves sports. Yeah, it's never going to measure up to the other things, but at least there's enough people who live there that you can get in the building and make it entertaining. But Atlanta?
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I know.
What are we doing?
That's
awful.
It's Gary just sees that there's someone who's willing to pay the money.
But when you have a watered down product, what's happened now is the last 2 expansion teams, the first one went to the Cup final.
That's first year, yeah.
And then the Kraken, they're going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not, the Atlanta failed in a sense because they were so bad.
Yeah.
That they just never got a chance to get on the road here. But this is a league where the difference between, like, it's not a big difference between the best, not the worst. The worst teams are bad, but like those bubble teams, like Ottawa's a good team, but they're not gonna make the playoffs. Like, you can come in, get some good players, play a good system, make the playoffs your first year.
Yeah.
Second year.
You get a guy who's decent goalie.
Like, look at Seattle. They got no star power. Jared McCann. The Leafs didn't want him.
Yep. Well, that's a sore spot for a lot of people too who are watching this.
Honestly, the guy's like a bona fide goal scorer.
What do you think of Bobby McMahon? Everyone loves Bobby McMahon because he's lighting up the American Hockey League. And in fairness, when he gets called up, he's in a bottom 6 role. So how much can he really do? But it doesn't matter. All this is.
But you know what I like about that though? When you're lighting up the AHL, you should be the guy in line.
Yes.
To get the shot.
Yes.
So I like that in a sense.
Yes. But
not like they're bringing up some guy because he's a good checker. Like, this is our best player. He's the next in line to come up when we need somebody.
You know who we desperately need to get here? Matthew Knies. Because us and anyone else who does a Leaf podcast is going to be hanging on by a thread.
Guys, make believe, man.
No, he's coming in.
He's a make believe.
He's coming
person.
in. He's coming in.
He's not coming.
He's coming. He's coming.
How do you know?
He's coming. He's coming.
Oh, classic Leaf. Just throw some guy in the. Remember the?
But
I'll never
now.
forget. I'll never forget the one year where Stamkos and Jimmy VC were.
Oh, Jimmy VC.
And I remember watching TSN one day, and they had Leafs projected lineup, and this was before anything ever happened. And there was Stamkos as the number one center, Jimmy VC as the second. Like, this is what this market does. They throw someone in the lineup,
and then they get Jimmy VC and Sheldon Keefe's like, that's enough. I don't need to watch this anymore.
Oh God, he's brutal.
What do you think of the St. Pat's unis?
I like the I mean they're not bad, but they're just
they need a mako. I love the fact that the tradition of them. I love that they wear them on actual St. Patrick's Day, but they're kind of like let's go back to the some people are like, oh, you just need to flip the color scheme, and like, yes, you do, but like, no, let's go back to the mats. Yeah. I want the brown pants. I want the brown helmets,
brown gloves,
Yeah, like let's go back. Like, there's that picture you always see of Mats rocking the old school like green St. Pat's with all the brown gear. Yes,
yeah, they're not bad unis, but they fall into that like. Like their winter classic jerseys were the same thing. Like they just fall into that same pattern with the middle stripe, and it just looks like it's a prototype with just a different logo thrown on it.
Needs a makeover. I think the Leafs' third jersey game in general is puzzling because I think their reverse retro this year is one of the nicest uniforms they've ever had, and they've only worn it twice. I think the Bieber unis. Like, while I think that it's cool and it's good for the game to have the collab with Bieber, like they're not my favorite. Like the numbers on the back are like, you can't. They're not my favorite. I think they're like, there's this reliance to be so basic with the third uni. That's why I like the reverse retro so much, because it has like the white shoulders and it's like it's such a nice uniform.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like since Shanny's come in, like remember they used to wear the third jersey like all the time?
Yes.
Pre-Shanahan. And then they came in, they changed the logo, and it just seems like they're just like, this is tradition. We're just gonna wear our home and aways.
Which is very Red Wings. That's very Red Wings.
Very Red Wings. Yeah, you're right.
All right. We ended up going 37 minutes here. I thought when we first started, I was like, how the hell are we going to get to 10 minutes today?
I feel like that happens to me every episode.
Yeah, you start off. Well, that's the problem when you're going like, what's the problem now? That's what I'm saying. Matthew Knies needs to get here so we can dissect every aspect about Matthew Knies, and that's like 3 episodes worth of content.
A make-believe hockey player.
Oh, he's coming.
But again, in every Leaf fan's mind, that's like, this, in your mind, you can convince yourself that's the spark they need to get over the hump. Just bringing in a nice, fresh, talented prospect who's big, plays physicals, just a human highlight reel. Could this be like the superstar? Probably he's a little cocky in a way. Just walks into the dressing room. I'm here. Let's go. And that's the difference. That's what every Leaf diehard is picturing in their head right now.
And it's
about the make-believe hockey player, Matthew Knies.
It's a much better situation because of the guys they've gone out and acquired. So now, like, when we were talking about Matthew Knies in, like, November, we were like, oh, he's the second line left winger. He's coming in, and he's like, that's who you're putting with Tavares and Nylander. And it was like the expectations were way too high for the kid. Whereas now it's like, no, they've got way, like, they're a lot deeper up front, so you could slot him in a third line, even fourth line role, and then all he's got to do is go out there. I agree with you. Like, if he does come up, I hope somebody sits him down and goes, listen, don't worry about anything. Like, just go out there and play hockey. Don't worry about what you need to be doing and being the same. Like, don't worry about that. Like, go out there and just play your game.
I mean, from all the highlights you watch, it looks like he's a guy who can handle it.
Yes.
Like, I mean, his highlight reel is pretty redonkulous. And there's some good hockey players who've come out of college who are just top NHL talent.
Yeah.
So don't make believe though.
All right, we're gonna get out of here. We'll be back. We play a lot. Like that's another thing about this stretch coming up here. It's every other night for the rest of the season. So strap yourselves in. I'm sure like we're seeing with Leafs Nation, even though they've got the playoff spots sewn up, it's still going to be an emotional roller coaster ride. And yeah, so thanks so much everybody for checking us out. If you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button below.
Spread the word, tell your friends.
We really appreciate it. If you're listening to the audio version, leave a like, leave a 5-star review, little comment. Every little bit helps. We'll catch you guys next time.